If you think you might be feeling depressed, stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, BetterHelp, the sponsor of this episode, is here for you. BetterHelp offers a broad range of over 20,000 licensed therapists who are trained to listen and help you. Plus, you can get 10% off your first month with my code, betterhelp.com/Koller. With BetterHelp, you can talk to your therapist in a private online environment at your convenience, and all you have to do is fill out a questionnaire to help assess your specific needs before getting matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Then you schedule secure video and phone sessions, plus you can exchange unlimited messages and everything you share is completely confidential. As a mom constantly working around Jaden's toddler schedule, having my weekly therapy online has been a complete game changer and a huge reason why I have made big steps to better my mental health for myself and for my family. You can also request a new therapist anytime at no additional charge. Join the 2 million plus people who have taken charge of their mental health with an experienced BetterHelp therapist. Don't forget to use my code to get that 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Koller. That's better, HELP.com/Koller. Hello and welcome to Koller Commentary. I am so excited for today's episode because before me I have 4 very mature older men who identify as Enneagram 9s. And if you have been listening since day one, Matt is an Enneagram 9. And I thought it'd be really fun to bring some of the guys together, kind of pick everyone's brains. And if I could, I would like to say that when I first opened up this room for discussion, it was very much like, I'll do it if you do it, and I'll do it if you do it. And then we all had to wait till Jonathan said yes. So who here actually wanted to do this? Raise your hand.
I thought it'd be fun. I love hanging out with these guys.
Yeah, I was indifferent. I mostly just wanted to like hang out.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Everyone is looking at each other.
Very hard to hang out with microphones right in our faces.
And who here has listened to an episode of my podcast before?
I have.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, so then I will be going easy on some of you and hard on those that have not been a fan till today. All right. So I would love to open up the floor by just letting you guys introduce each other. So we'll start with my man, half white boy.
All right. Yep. I guess I'm back. I've done a few of these. So I'm looking forward to doing another one. You can learn all about me.
Did you answer? Did you answer?
Matt. I'm Matt, husband. Koller.
The half white boy.
My name is Michael. I'm 100% Korean. And my wife is Grace Lee. Next.
My name is Jonathan Kang. I am 100% Enneagram 9. I don't think you can be. And I am the #1 fan of the Gina Fangirl Club. So.
Oh. One up you, Michael.
My name is Choi. 100% Korean, 100% Enneagram 9, maybe 80%. And I'm a fan to my lovely Agnes Chu, my wife. A beautiful wife.
Guys, it's not a mandatory part of the introduction. You can just be your own person for a night.
Yeah. Can we?
We just celebrated because Agnes did bring a cake for Ian's 35.
Wow.
So we're here for 2 different reasons.
Wonderful wife.
Yeah. Before I do begin with the Enneagram 9 and wonderful wives you all do have, as I have shared previously that I am in my girlfriend era and your wives play a big part in that formation. And so before I begin, there is a recent thing I've been doing in this new year where I read a quote. And as I read the quote, you just say what might resonate in the first second. Okay. The connection brings you together, but the emotional maturity is what makes it work.
That sounds like the early stages of a relationship and then like everything that follows afterwards. That's what it sounds like to me.
You know, I think as you get older, it's friendships and relationships start looking very different. And I feel like the effort that you put in, I feel like you have a little bit more control over, but it's like, do you want to invest more? There's a lot of questions you start thinking about relationships. So makes me think a little bit about like, where am I in terms of wanting to form new ones or maintaining old ones?
Where am I? Good self-awareness question.
Yeah, I agree. I think like the thing that I don't know, initially you want to like date the other person for probably ends up mattering very little in the end. And like a marriage is going to be pretty bad if like that's what you hold on to. So I think actually controlling your emotions in a way that can like bridge the gap of all the conflicts that come down the road is probably way more important than like holding on to, I don't know, that connection, that peace that was maybe so meaningful at the beginning. I think that kind of takes a backseat to the emotional maturity part.
No, I agree with what they say. I think beginning stage is all, just fun and connecting based on like the interest, but throughout the marriage you go through ups and downs, and I think your relationship also matures through the conflicts and struggles that you have, and just going through all the emotional imbalances during the fights. That definitely brings maturity.
And I feel like Enneagram 9s have pretty good control over their emotions. So I think a lot of times we could like, feel like the emotional part, the like emotional part of a conflict. I think like in my mind, we've talked about this before. Like I have my plenty of flaws, but I think, you're more emotionally reactive person. And I think I can like see the value in that when things are good, but then it feels very challenging to overcome when we're in a conflict. And I think I can connect with this, and it's probably a part of this is like, I don't see my own flaws in these moments, but I agree with the sentiment because I can see that making it really challenging to like unite when the emotions are just like all over the place, and we gotta rein it in sometimes.
Good thing not all the wives are here, it would just be a bloodbath right now. I agree, though, that Enneagram 9s do tend to have this steadfastness, which is why this is one of the quotes that I did choose to bring up for today. I would like to argue, though, that I think emotional maturity doesn't just mean controlling emotional reactions, but also allowing your emotions to come in. And so that's why I wanted to bring this one up to just kind of see where are you guys in that as we continue this conversation. All right, so Enneagram 9s, you guys are easygoing, non-judgmental, patient, and long for harmony with others and in your environments. And if you continued in reading this, I gave you kind of a big overview of an Enneagram 9. And so I want us to go around and just share what resonated with you the most about the type 9 overview, because while you guys are all 9s in this place, you guys could have resonated with different things, and each of you make up a different version of that Enneagram 9. So why don't we start with the youngest in this room, which is not Matt, and that's all I know.
Oh, wow.
You are the youngest.
Okay. Wow. I'm 34. So,
and your name is Michael, yes.
Yeah. So there's a lot of old people. Anyways, so when trying to, so what resonated for me from what Joey sent us, I identified this portion, which says, when trying to satisfy longing for peace and harmony, I can become conflict avoidant and quickly overwhelmed. This just resonated with me. And the example I thought of many hours before this podcast was when I shower. Grace always tells me, Grace is my wife, she always tells me, she has like a little potty stool thing. You guys know what I'm talking about, the squatty potty.
Oh, okay. I was like,
yeah, it's like a squatty potty, and I don't use it. She needs it, but I use it sometimes. But she tells me move it out of the way because it always gets wet if like I shower, and like I forget a lot. I forget to move it a lot, so a lot of times I shower and then I come out, I'm like, oh shoot, it's wet again. And like she's gotten irritated at me before because I keep forgetting. So what I do is, and now she knows this, but I like wipe the stool and then like put out like, one of those little space heaters. Like I just blast it with a space heater a little bit so it'll dry up a little bit. And then I just choose not to tell her that it happened again, even though it's happened like 3 times already, even though she's already told me not to do that. And I think that is, it's really early in the podcast, so I don't want to like bring up like a crazy example. So I'm starting very light.
Oh, I love
but
it.
that's an example of me being conflict avoidant, right? Like instead of her finding it wet and then me getting yelled at and then that escalating into an argument, I try to, this makes me sound really bad, but I clean it up. I clean it up ahead of time so that she doesn't see it, she doesn't notice it. And then it's so small and like insignificant in my opinion in our lives that it doesn't deserve an argument between us.
I see a lot of 9 heads nodding.
Yeah. And then I guess like the quickly overwhelmed part is that's why I go to such extreme measures to like holding a space heater to dry it off. Like I immediately get overwhelmed because the thought of her yelling at me, or not, she doesn't yell at me, but the thought of her getting mad at me overwhelms me very, very quickly. And so I have to react very quickly and, sometimes like irrationally.
For this part, I'm going to kind of step back and you guys can resonate with it if you want, or you can just share your own answer as well.
It feels like that's the correct move. Like, I don't know why you would let the conflict happen in that scenario. So it seems like you're just being smart about it. Thanks,
But
Matt.
is it conflict? I know I just said I wasn't going to talk. But is sharing that conflict?
Sounds like it would become one. I don't know.
It shouldn't become one.
Yeah.
But it might.
You're just preventing the conflict, right?
Right. Like,
You're like a hero in the story.
it's not a conflict the first time it happens because she can't get mad at me if I did it once and I didn't know that it bothered her so much. But I could see it becoming conflict if I do it a third time and she has to remind me. And then, yeah, so like, that's why I acted that way. And, yeah,
Interesting. At this point, I'm just
NG.
analyzing you guys as we continue forward. This is the part where you guys share your answers and I decide to make my judgments for you non-judgmental people. Who is next youngest?
That would be me. This is Jonathan. I really resonated with pretty much the entire part of being a 9, the whole like peacemaker, not enjoying conflict. And I know we'll probably discuss a lot about our marriages, but I think the example that I thought of was actually in work. So there was a situation where, I used to be a teacher and there was these two sides, the admin side and the teacher side. And I was good friends with both sides. I would really connect well, be friends, have like camaraderie, work well together on both sides. Later in the year, I find out that both sides absolutely despised each other. And that kind of caught me by surprise because I was like, why? Like they are both great people. They both work hard. And I think another part of being a 9 is like you see all points of view. And I think that kind of played into why maybe I didn't personally have conflict with either side. It's because like, the admin side completely understand where she's coming from. My like colleague teacher side completely know where she's coming from. And it wasn't necessarily conflict avoidance per se, but it was, I understand both sides. They both have a valid point. There's no need to, have conflict. So it was interesting in the workplace seeing that where even there, I'm, I guess, in the sense, avoiding conflict just naturally.
One of the things about 9s is that they are some of the best friends and like people you want to have on your side because they do take a point to understand you and they are also truly like humble people. They don't like have a side plan to manipulate or anything like that. I see a lot of head nods. But when it comes to marriage, that's when they're suddenly also confronted with their first like, I'm a good person all my life. What is this? Because there is a time where confrontation is needed as well. So it's kind of cool to hear that happen in your workplace. And probably with valid point is like, while they might not have liked each other, you played your natural role of being a person that people can go to find connection and trust and like really be themselves. So I hear that. All right, Ian, your turn.
For me, I think the core desire, like having inner stability and peace of mind, that's really important for me. But another thing that stuck out, this is something that I researched. They want everything to go smoothly and be without conflict. This comes in for me, especially when I travel, because I'm a planner. I love to plan things out. I like to know and be in control of my days and weeks ahead of time. And that brings me a lot of peace. But when things veer off, or like, let's say Agnes and I are traveling, Agnes throws in a different idea, or she has different plans all of a sudden, it starts to irritate me. I'm like, we already talked about this. We already have plans. So, and for me, I can't hide my emotions when conflicts arise, just in general. I think that actually, that's like the part that resonated with me the most, like having inner stability and peace of mind. Like in order for me to have that, I also need to be in control of the situations most of the time.
And I like how you brought that up, because I think that's when it shows we can all be the same type, but it only is these core motivations that unite us. And what do you define as peace? That could be different from what these other guys define as peace, but it's going back to your inner peace. And for you, that is in that control. And so that's a helpful distinguishment. All right, Matt, the oldest, 35.
형님.
Yeah.
So I do resonate really strongly with honestly most of it, but it's interesting because through most of my life, I would have thought I was a different number. I think the 3, right? And I think it's because I spent the majority of my life never having conflict with anyone or any circumstance. So for most of my life, if it was important for me to know that people knew the things I was really good at, and to like have this high sense of like who I am and have that be known for the things I'm good at, and, you know, the things I'm not good at, then like, you know, to like not worry about those things. But so we've had conversations like, oh yeah, first time I ever had conflict was when we got married. But I realized that's not actually true. I don't think that was when my 9-ness revealed itself. I think it's a combination of like med school leading into us like having a bad dating relationship after you had moved after that first year, and then leading into residency. All these things that I was no longer like successful in. And I think it brought me down to like this baseline level of what I really want in life. And I think what I realized in all these things is I want all these things that a 9 wants. Like in residency, for example, like I did not care about any achievement or status or like success. I just kind of wanted to get by and like see as little patience as possible on most days, so I could like find periods of rest. And then, you know, and in our marriage, like I just wanted us to be good, and like conflicts would just drain all the energy out of me, and I would just want to like withdraw from that. So yeah, I think like this innate, okay, when life is actually like not this idealistic thing where it's just like success kind of, then I'm like, okay, what I really want is like peace, stability, like knowing what's coming, like being able to avoid conflicts, and just, yeah, just kind of like have a life that is nice. I don't know, where I'm not just like worried about what's gonna happen the next day, right? And again, we tease each other how much that came out in our relationship, but I think it came out in just this constantness of like challenging times that I'd never had in the first 26 years of my life. So yeah, but at this point I resonate very strongly with most of what a 9 is.
Ooh, why did you say wow?
I feel like I was looking in the mirror. Yeah, that point of, if I had known about Enneagrams before I got married, I probably wouldn't have thought I was a 9.
Yeah.
But realizing, yeah, but like marriage really does kind of bring that out. Like, oh shoot, conflict's a thing, and I don't like it, and I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I resonated that too, because before marriage, like I just said I was like a planner, but I was never a planner. I was always like, just go with the flow, you know, be spontaneous, because I was alone. But after being married, conflict started to arise because there was no plan. Like, you know, we would just butt heads. And then that's when I realized, okay, if I can at least have my part a little bit more planned out, you know, if we can have our marriage a little bit more planned out just on a day-to-day basis, then we can avoid conflict. Yeah, there will be more peace.
That's so, it's always so interesting to see, like, if you're a planner, like I'm a planner too, post-marriage more, but for my core motivation reasons, versus yours is for like the peace side in a sense. So it's kind of cool to hear that. And what a great segue into asking you guys, what did you look like pre-married? And then versus what is that biggest change you had to make post-marriage?
Ironically, so pre-marriage, Agnes and I never had a fight. Like 3 years of our dating phase, we never had a fight because I was always good at just apologizing and moving on. And this is before I knew about her wanting her feelings to be validated. So I'll always just apologize and move on. And then she was never good at like sharing her like true emotions with me. Like when things bother her, she'll just keep it, she'll hold it. And I'm saying it's ironic because I'm avoiding conflict, but I would encourage her to share like, hey, like we need to fight, you know? Fighting is okay. Fighting is important in our relationship. And then post-marriage, I think she got just very good at emotions. So she doesn't hold back. I'm realizing...
Get him, Agnes.
During marriage, like more like in the recent times of our marriage, I avoid those conversations. Like she'll bring things up and I'm like, I don't want to have these conversations right now. Like I'll give her a reason. Like right now is not a good time. Like I don't want to talk about this when we're eating. I don't want to talk about this because I'm tired. So yeah, I think that's like our major differences. Yeah, pre-marriage and post-marriage.
Knowing Agnes's Enneagram type, that also does make sense. But
Michael here.
Hi,
So
Michael.
for me, definitely agree with what Inkyu said. Before marriage, for me, it was easier to maintain harmony in my life because, simply like my home's empty. It's just me, and conflict to me usually involves more than one person. So if I wanted to avoid conflict, it's easy to just block everyone from my life, avoid texting people or calling people back, like telling friends like I can't make it to whatever hangout. It's just easy to just avoid all social settings. Post-marriage, biggest change I feel like was really that social circle, because you have like obligations as a married partner to show up to social events, deal with your spouse's like problems at work, and you can't just avoid like everything. Like I don't know how many times Grace has like invited me to hang out with the I really hope these people don't hear this, but like her like dental school friends, like or like her French friends or whatever. Like, if I wasn't with Grace, I wouldn't have to deal with any of that. But now I have an obligation as a husband to kind of represent our family and then show up and pretend to be excited about whatever we're talking about. Like, okay.
Are you okay with this?
And then texting Grace on the table like, hey, when can we leave? Yeah, I'm good. Joe, can you edit out stuff that you think is gonna...
don't worry, Matt's about to totally resonate with you.
Oh, okay, great.
I don't think there's any like podcast algorithm that is going to present this to the French people. They're not going to listen.
Yeah, they don't understand English.
Well, I guess the bangs aren't going to reshare this episode. But I think this was interesting to hear because the showing up is what I am hearing. And like you said, you don't text people back if you don't want to, or you can just say that you're not going to go to something. Tell me more. Not that I resonate as a spouse to a 9.
Oh gosh, if my like 20s friends like heard this, they would definitely just like jump at hearing that. But like I was very well known to not respond to text messages in my 20s. People would notoriously know me as like somebody who doesn't like being like in social settings too much. Like I don't want to be in the spotlight. I want to be in the background. And like if people call me, just like one of the things that I really don't enjoy is when somebody calls me just to chat. I really hate that. Like, and one of my friends, a really good friend of mine, I love him to death, but he always calls and asks like, hey, like, how's it going? I'm like, hey, what's up? What do you need? And he's like, oh, I'm just driving home and just thought of you. I'm like, oh, dang it. So like, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of person I am. But like, I can't do that anymore because now my life is intertwined with this other person who's very social and likes to maintain her connections. And yeah, so.
Yeah. Matt has 2,029 unresponded to, unread text. So let me tell you, and as a social life, it's been a main point of conflict as well. Oh. So cheers to that, y'all.
But you know, like core longing for
presence.
Enneagram 9 is your presence matters, right? Like, I don't know if it's because I'm an extrovert, but that resonates with me as well, because I just had a friend call me today, like from LA, like one of my best friends. She's like, hey, like I just want to check in with you. Like, how are you? That made me feel so special because for me, it's like, oh, like even though I'm away, even though I haven't seen them, like they still think about me. So for me, like when things like that happen, I'm like, oh yeah, like that makes me really like feel nice, you know?
Yeah.
So that's like the Enneagram 9 in me. I don't know if that's because I'm an extrovert, like I want to like connect with everybody.
Yeah, I feel like I straddle a line there because like there's someone who I
straddle the line.
Yeah.
Isn't straddle like a sexual term?
Whoa.
No, straddle the line is
So
like
we're
a
going
common
there now.
Very common term, man.
You don't know how many of these. You have no idea how many like normal phrases I will say that this is a similar reaction to.
Whoa.
Okay, so you straddle the line on
Straddle the line.
On what they're saying. Anyway, because so like what Ian was saying, and I think that this is because I don't instinctively resonate with that a lot, but it's true. If someone I value a lot or like really want, like I value the relationship, if they come to me for something or even if they just check in, I like really like it. I really feel very special about it and I want to talk and invest that time. But if someone who I'm like an acquaintance with or like who I'm not that interested in like tries to chat with me, that just interrupts the peace I want. And I do not want to have a chit chat with that person.
Actually, yeah, that's true.
So like I do think I have that 9ness in me, but I also have the 9ness of the not wanting to feel like unnecessarily burdened or like have this extra stress for unless I like truly value it, because I'm like get out of here.
Yeah.
So Michael's friend, he does not value.
Hey man. Hey, if you're listening, man. Hey, I miss you, man. Wait, but Enneagram 9 doesn't distinguish like introvert and extrovert, right? Like
No.
you can be
okay.
So,
Yeah.
so I'm introverted, and so I think that's where I resonate.
Right.
Yeah.
I think these are all good points. Like, what part of those core motivations really bring you into that 9ness, and also like extrovert, introvert can play a part of what that means in terms of like your presence matters, but that can mean so many different things to a person. But it sounds like that is still a confirmed affirmation that you guys might hear.
It's interesting when I think about pre-married life and like post-married life, because to me, I'm the same person. But I think when I think about, especially conflict, obviously I've shared like, you know, earlier in this podcast that I didn't have much conflict before marriage. And now that, you know, in marriage, conflict is normal, but I'm not very good at responding at that. And I think a part of that too is being challenged. Like, I don't think I've ever been challenged of, hey, like, why'd you do that? Or why do you feel like that? And obviously your spouse is going to challenge you. And I think a lot of times, especially when I was single, I have this like veneer that everything I do is like in confidence, like, or like I'm doing it. It's like the one way that you should do it. Like, don't question why I'm doing it. But then in marriage, almost everything's questioned. It's like, hey, like why, like what did you think and why did you think like that? And I think a lot of times for me, that would disturb my inner peace because I didn't want to think about that. I would just like, I just did it. But the reality was maybe I just never really thought deeply. And I think because of that too, I realized like I'm not processing things. And thus, even when I have conflict, I sometimes have a tough time processing during conflict. I always say like, oh, Gina's always going to win every argument because my brain just stops once conflict starts. And like, I'm like, I have no idea what to say. And like, my brain just won't work during those times. So I think that's definitely shown up a lot more in marriage for me.
And Gina's like so smart.
Yeah, she's like, she's probably an attorney in another life.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Honestly, I'm like, what PR? Like I swear you had like 5 other majors. But I'm curious for you guys. So as I'm hearing that is like, yes, maybe, and it's not true for all 9s, but maybe there was a point where there didn't have to be a challenge or like a pushback because you were able to confront things with confidence in a lot of parts of your life. What does that look like in terms of marriage? Like, are you guys then able to challenge your wives? Is that something you ever go into? Because, you know, like challenging each other is important, whether it's challenging or keeping the other accountable. Like if there's a goal that's set and it's like, let's say that person failed. Are you guys able to, hey, like challenge them? I ask that because Matt and I are not the best accountability partners. And that is something I crave, but I also know that that doesn't have to always come from your spouse. But I wonder, like, you might not have had that growing up of being challenged. Are you able to then reciprocate that skill of challenging others? This is where I'm going to put the cricket sound, I think.
Are we talking about with our spouses?
Yeah.
Like, yes, for me, because
I feel like you would.
Because I want to win the argument. And so...
But winning an argument is different from lovingly challenging a partner. Because the part here is saying that once you enter marriage, love includes challenging the other, right?
Yeah.
So have you challenged? So have you also, like, so it sounds like, because my husband's also good at winning an argument.
Yeah.
But what does challenge look like out of love? Because that is a part of marriage.
I think challenging out of love is like, you care about this person so much that you can see their potential and you want what's best for them. Even if it's not the right thing, you feel like either they can be somewhere better or they deserve better. Like, and that's why like those kind of challenges happen. Like if I didn't care about you, like it's much easier to just let things go. And like if I'm in conflict with somebody I don't care about, I'm like, all right, okay, well, do whatever you want. But like for your spouse, that's like the most important person in your life. And so that challenging your spouse is inevitable, because if you want the best for your spouse, it could be anything, like physically, like you want them to be healthy, or like you want them to be propelled in their career or whatever, like it's gonna inevitably happen. And like humans falter and like sometimes lose motivation. So you have to be there to challenge that feeling of laziness or like no motivation to pick them back up again. And that could cause conflict. But
You got real passionate there.
I'm just thinking about like when Grace was interviewing for orthodontic like residency, like she was interviewing in US schools, like a lot of things were against her making it into the United States. And like I just remember doing a mock interview with her the night before one of her really big interviews, and like I was like grilling her, but it wasn't because I don't want to grill my wife and, you know, see her like tear up or whatever, but like she was really stressed and I was grilling her because I just wanted her to nail the questions that she was going to get asked the next day. And she probably didn't enjoy that. Like I remember she was like, "Gosh, I don't know if I should share this." but I remember she was tearing up over the phone, and I suddenly felt so bad. But I knew it was like if I could just push her through this, then she would really, really be able to get to that next level where she'd be able to crush that interview the next day.
I love that.
I think I know the right answer, and I think Michael gave like a great example. But I think in my natural state, the cadence of what happens is we'll have an argument, then we'll resolve that argument, and then there'll be a period of peace. But then I'm like, oh, like maybe I should bring this up to my wife. Like, there's like good encouragement, but I don't want to break the peace. And then all of a sudden what happens is that then we then have a big argument again. I was like, dang it, like I missed my shot. And then again, it's like, oh, now's not a good time because we're, emotions are high. And then peace comes again. And I'm like, oh, peace is good. And then I'm like, oh, should I bring it up? No, peace is good. And then it never comes up. So I think that's just my general like pattern and cadence naturally.
100%. Bro, 100%. That's like that with me too. Like we'll have a fight, we'll have a big fight, and then a peace will come. Everything is resolved. And I start sensing like little tensions just coming up, but I'm like, I don't want to break this piece. I want to just, extend it as long as I could. But
you always extend it too long.
Yeah, I extend it too long, and then that's when Agnes brings it up, and then it becomes a fight. So I mean, like, it's just like the conflict just gets marinated over time. That happens pretty often.
This is so much fun. Matt, you've been silent.
So I have enough like self-awareness to realize that what I'm about to say applies to both of us. But like, I don't like challenging you. And I think you probably shy away from challenging me sometimes, or you don't, I don't know. But like, I think we both receive challenges from each other. I'm just going to speak from my standpoint, but I don't want this to sound like prideful.
You can just pretend that I'm not like everyone else.
Like I feel like something you hear from me, if you hear it from anyone else, it could be received well. But if you hear it from me, it can be received very not well. And I shy away from doing it sometimes because it's the same idea. Like, I don't want to provoke a conflict, even if it's something like kind of important, or sometimes if it's something small. I think I don't always trust the reaction. And I know, again, I know I can be very defensive when you try and like point out something that I'm not doing well. So again, this is a two-way street. But like, yeah, I don't like correcting you even out of love, because I'm scared of what is going to come from that. I can provide a lighthearted example.
But can you talk to them? Because if you're saying me, and I
angled.
can't respond, it's hard. So like, talk about me like third person.
I'm angled. So I'll give a lighthearted example, because I think sometimes this is like a very significant thing, and sometimes it's for something smaller. But like something that I never actually said to you, but like a smaller thing, is that, so she used to get mad at me a lot because I lost the school key for our kid. You like buzz in, and so I would take hers. I would use hers because I didn't want to go through the trouble of like getting a new one. I don't want to tell them I lost it, and she'd get really mad at me, and sometimes like significantly mad, because I'll take hers, and sometimes I forget to put it where I got it from, or like I would ask her in the morning where it is, and it was very annoying, which was valid. So like a month ago, she lost her key. She has used mine for like every day for a month until she lost it, and I lost my key, and I never once asked her like, so should you just get a new key? Like a very simple thing that was it would have been very rightful for me to ask, because she literally would get pissed at me day in and day out for not having my key. But I just didn't want to say anything. So when I would, a few times I would not have the key, Jaden would get sad and cry at school, and I didn't have it because she took out my wallet and used it for herself. I would never mention it when I got home, or I would like, so is that idea? I never wanted to tell her like, so should you just get a new key? Like you always told me to get a new key. I never said it. And then I just ended up getting new keys for both of us the other day after. So it's that idea. And sometimes it takes a bigger emphasis. Sometimes it's like, to me, that's like a smaller thing. Like I never felt like this internal anger, but I recognized it, but I chose not to say anything about it, because I was like, well, there's the chance that she'll get pissed off if I bring it up, and I'd rather not. So that's like that idea.
I have a lighthearted example as well. And it kind of relates to even what Michael shared about like fanning out and drying out the squatty potty. But, Gina sometimes will take off her socks and just put it anywhere. If I did that, I know I would hear something. And so, but for me, when I see that, I'm like, oh, one of us, like she's like me as well. But to avoid conflict, I always, take off my socks in the proper place, because I don't want to. But then I don't mention it to her of like, hey, your socks are here, because to me, I guess it doesn't bother me. Yeah, that's just like another example. I think that subconsciously, I'm doing that.
Ooh, I think we're gonna have fun at the reaction episode. Let me tell you. But I want to honor the space, so I'm not gonna clap back about the lighthearted key.
And to avoid conflict, I'm not gonna show it. My wife is great. I love Agnes.
Well, she's gonna edit all of it out. Like, yeah, we don't need this.
Oh no, this is safe.
Yeah. Joe just like, hey, just stir the pot a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like, can I just add that
that your wife is also great.
While I was listening to Jonathan and Matt, I was just thinking to myself, like the response I just gave to Joey's question makes me seem like I'm not a 9. Because like lovingly challenged, like I just talked about how I so easily lovingly challenged. I think Matt pointed out like the fact that he didn't want Joey to get pissed. Like, and I guess I don't know what that looks like, but I'm assuming like that's like scary to you, or like it just or it just brings up like feelings or tensions that like it's like it's just like maybe like overwhelming or something. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, but I just wanted to clarify that the reason I think I'm more able to lovingly challenge my wife is because I am not afraid of Grace getting pissed. But just to clarify for people who don't know me and Grace, Grace is just a very, very mellow and like just kind of cheerful and lighthearted person. Mostly throughout the day, like it's so rare for her to get mad, and so that's why I think it's easier for me to just throw things out, like loving challenges, like kind of like without even hesitating. Like it's just easier for me because I'm not expecting like a very
because you're confident that you can always win their argument.
No, I can't. I'm not even confident that I could beat her in an argument, but
you want to beat her.
Yeah. I do.
in an argument, not
yeah.
Oh my goodness. But the response isn't gonna break your inner peace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like however she responds, like it's not something that's gonna make me super riled up, and I think it has something to do with her, that she's, in my opinion, just overly just like a very calm and like nice person, and so it's just
way to bring your wife up and bring me
I know,
down.
I'm not saying I know.
No, but I think that's true. And so kind of like talking into family of origin, but one thing about nines is the need to feel comfortable or the need for peace, right? And that doesn't stem from marriage, even though it sounds like there is like a marriage is when you had to really deal with your first like real constant times of conflict. Growing up, can you share maybe when that need for comfort or that need for peace might have taken root for you? You got to go way back, and sometimes nines can't remember way back. But
I remember.
Okay, good.
Okay, I'll share.
Oh, yeah.
Our family had, fair share of our conflicts, but being the youngest, I have an older sister who's 5 years older. My parents, they own the business together, and growing up, I saw them fight pretty frequently. And as the youngest, I had to have a dunchi in the house, to not mess up or, to not cause any trouble. So, and my sister kind of took all the bullet as the oldest. They're very hard on her, but with me, a little bit easygoing. But I think growing up with seeing my parents fight constantly, I just tried to avoid the situation as much as possible. Just growing up, like seeing other people fight or seeing my friends fight, like I try to be the mediator. I'll try to see like both sides, and like same with my mom and my dad. Like one time I remember, like as a teenager, they were fighting. I'm like, okay, I know what you guys are fighting about, but this is like just going in loops. So I remember just hearing both sides, and like as the youngest, I really tried to make peace in the family. And one of the ways is just not, because they'll take things so seriously. Like it's such a small fight that start, and then I'll try to lighten up the mood a little bit. And I think that transpired into my marriage with Agnes. Like whenever we have a fight, like a conflict will start, usually I'll try to make a joke to lighten up the mood, but that doesn't go well. Because I'm not validating Agnes's anger and her feelings. So, yeah.
I mean, it's a hard question for me. And I think the reason why is because, like, I just was in a unique circumstance where not only did I not have any conflicts for so many years, I didn't even see conflict. My parents didn't have conflicts. My siblings didn't really have any, like, obvious conflicts. I wasn't exposed to, like, the idea of conflict for a really long time. So I don't think I ever realized it about myself, probably until I started, like, dating, which I was unsuccessful in my pursuits of dating relationships for a long time in my life. So my first girlfriend was like my senior year of college, basically. And then there I realized, like, when it would go south or it was just like a really annoying time in that relationship, I'm like, oh man, like I just want to like disengage from everything and just like calm the environment down. So I don't think I really realized that about myself until like I had an important relationship in my life that was conflict driven. So I guess it's a good thing. I had the benefit of not experiencing conflict for like 22 years. Yeah.
I think that's cool to hear, like very different upbringing, but at the same time, it's the piece that was instilled, or the desire to instill that piece if you had to, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it's.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's like what shaped me in a way to becoming an Enneagram 9 is that like I saw this environment that was very peaceful and calm and nice, and like it was just like an easy environment to live in. So I probably adapted that, or I desired that, and when that would start being taken away, I'm sure like that drove some of the cravings for it.
As I was prepping for this was actually a question I did not answer because I couldn't remember. And I guess bad memories, Enneagram 9 thing, I don't know. But I kind of relate with what Matt said. You know, I didn't see much conflict growing up. And I'm the type that puts like I know if I'm going to be good at something kind of early on when I try something. And so whether that be sports or musical instruments or whatnot. And so I think conflict is not something that I had to think about if I'm going to be quote unquote good at until like much later, maybe in college when, you know, you interacting with more people. But I think in my upbringing, just because my core family was really the main people I hung out with, you know, during the week, on the weekends, I didn't really see many people. And so I think that really shaped my thought of, oh, like conflict's not really addressed. Like, yes, there was conflict, but it's not really addressed. So I think because of that, I never got to quote unquote practice how to conflict resolute.
I think for me that need for comfort started at adolescence. My mom and dad were apart for very, very long periods of my childhood. And so I think I sought validation or comfort from like friends at school, like when I was younger. And like this is my one little anecdote, but I remember like I think I was in 6th grade. I was like during summer camp, and I remember one of my friends was having a birthday party, and I remember learning about it from another friend who was invited, another friend who was like my close friend. And then so I remember, you know, walking up to the guy, the birthday boy, and telling him like, hey, I'm so excited for your birthday party, like can't wait to go. And then him kind of awkwardly saying and then like me never getting the invite to the birthday party eventually, and me finding out about it later on. And when you're in 5th grade and that happens to you, like it hurts, but you don't know how to process that hurt because you're so young. And so it hurt so much because like the friends around me, since my parents were, you know, like my mom was so busy working all the time and my dad was like not living with us, I had sought so much validation from my friends. And then because of that hurt, it felt so uncomfortable, and I wanted to avoid that feeling at all costs at such a young age that I think it naturally became like reliable for me to isolate myself, because like if you have less friends and less interactions socially, the less chances you have to get hurt. And so it just it's not like you are happy in your own skin, but I think I became more tolerant in my own skin, like just being by myself and just not having like way too many friends. And so I think that's where my need for comfort first came from, is like, and like, I think just to summarize it, the family dynamic is so important, because if you have a reliable family dynamic where you can come home and like dad's there, mom's there, and everyone can have quality time together, you don't really like, there's, I think, less chances for you to get hurt by friendships outside of the home. But I think unfortunately for me, I didn't have that. And so I was, I think, more susceptible to like getting hurt by those external outside of the family relationships.
And I want to hug 5th grade Michael and tell him like his presence mattered then, you know, as like the core motivation. But I think it's helpful to hear how you then process that later, right? Even if it's not in that moment, and how you can change that for your family. And I think that's like really important for each of us to kind of think of. That's why like I did want to bring this question up, is like, whatever that may have been, right? Like, what do you want to keep from that? And also, what do you want to change for our families today? So I think that's how we're going to end part 1, and then we're going to start part 2. All right. Cool. Does anyone need to go to the restroom?
This podcast is sponsored by
BetterHelp. Okay, let me start this.